How's it going, viewers of all shapes, sizes, genders, races, etc.? My name is Larry Freed, and welcome to the official Rule Thirds podcast on rulethirds.com. Kind of apparent. This is CinemaTalk. Today we're going to be dealing with a very deep subject, probably one of the deepest subjects we will ever do. So strap on your seatbelts because it's going to be a philosophically bumpy ride. Again, my name is Larry.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Max.
And let's all go to the lobby in preparation for this episode of CinemaTalk. Let's go!
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Alrighty, got my popcorn soda on the side. Let's get started. This is CinemaTalk. This is the official Rule Thirds podcast where we take a look at things in the film industry and chat about them. Because we're white and we're film nerds, and that's how things go.
Okay.
I learned something very interesting today.
What was that, Larry?
Are you guys curious? All right, so look at this, all right? So apparently, every single female under the age of 10 is gay now. Did you guys know
Really?
that?
Very interesting fact, yes. Very.
Is that interesting? And you know what? It might even actually be more than that. It might be females above the age of 10. It might be males. Don't you find that kind of odd?
My
You
God,
know,
what powerful
weird.
thing could have caused this?
Yeah, and
At my art school, everybody's coming out of the closet, and I don't know why.
it's so weird. I mean, and apparently, it's tied to Frozen, at least according to these two radio hosts named Kevin Swanson and Steve Vaughn, who are accusing Frozen of turning your children homosexual. To put it in kinder terms, they say that the song "Let It Go" can easily be interpreted as a quote unquote coming out song.
Well, to be fair, it totally is.
Well,
Yes.
someone could interpret it
But
as
in a positive way.
Yes, not necessarily in a sexual way though.
Right. It
the
not
thing.
in the let's
Right.
make straight people gay way.
Yeah.
Right. So, this is very. For those of you who aren't aware, a article on Slash Film News went up about this on this past Wednesday, the 12th, and which is exactly 1 week from when you're hearing this. And I found this very interesting because you hear these stories about things like churches and very devout religious groups not boycotting films in a way. And not only that, other things too. A couple of examples: some religious people have been up in arms about the Noah film from Darren Aronofsky,
Which makes it look way more promising to me.
Exactly.
Which is kind of funny. It's the
I
inverse
know.
of what they want to happen.
Exactly, that's going to be very interesting.
Larry, what's funny about that whole thing is that Paramount is more concerned not about the religious groups, but of people, movie buff atheists who are running off the film as just another church movie. That's that's
they
interesting.
should be
because
worried about that. I mean, that's how the trailers presented it. They really should have
Yeah.
thought that through before that ad campaign went out. Because honestly, I get that you're trying to get the religious crowd. It is a movie based off Bible, but yeah, they really should have. I don't know. You got to pick one.
If you want our full thoughts on Noah right now, you should go back to the first episode of Cinema Talk and listen up.
Yeah, it's like in the middle somewhere. We talk about a lot of movies. I have no idea where it is. Have fun.
Yeah, but there was also Max covered this on an episode of the Newsreel a while back. The LBGTQ community got very up in arms over Ender's Game because
Yes.
of because
For
of
an
its,
unfounded and completely
Yes.
pointless reason.
yes, because of its author and the way that Orson Scott Card.
Yeah,
and
he's an
his
insane
anti-gay
human
views.
being, but he's not
Yes.
the reason why you shouldn't go see the film.
Exactly, but that isn't really the same situation here. But as we can clearly see, many people feel that films impact other people in many different ways. Clearly, as we see here. So that's what today's episode is going to be about. We don't exactly know where this discussion is going to go, but we're just gonna say that this discussion is going to discuss the impact a film can have on people, in any way, shape, or form, really. And it does, and really, if it can have any impact at all, and really where that line lies between, crossing a line and impacting someone and not really doing anything to them at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, we all agree that the accusation that Frozen is trying to turn our kids gay, that is utterly moronic.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
But that
here's
begs
another
the-
thing. Here, can I jump onto something else
Can
that
I
I've noticed
finish
with this
my
lately?
sentence?
Okay, fine. Go ahead and finish your important sentence.
Well, now it's just like lost in the wind.
No,
You'll never know.
Wait, I'm gonna catch it. I got, it's the butterfly. Damn. That's
Oh well.
Oh, Larry, you and your metaphors.
me and my metaphors. You're the one in an episode of CinemaTalk who related a movie to a piece of candy.
Oh yeah,
No,
I remember that.
Do you remember
Star
that?
Trek Into Darkness.
You
It
called
was-
Star Trek
and
Into Darkness
in
a piece
fairness,
of candy.
it was a simile because I used the word like.
Oh, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Okay?
CinemaTalk, your number one source for our thoughts about grammar.
Grammar. That's it.
Anyway, if I may give my thoughts on something, it always drives me nuts when people assume that a lead character, that a female character that is not attracted to a male in a movie is considered gay. Have you guys noticed this? Especially with Elsa. I don't believe Elsa is gay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being gay, but I don't think Elsa is gay. She's just not attracted to any male character in Frozen.
Yeah, see,
And she's not attracted to any female character either.
We're also talking about characters. Well, okay, I think a lot of people will associate. You know what? That's a topic right there. Characters, sexuality, how that impacts character. Should it impact what a character is like? That's a good subject, actually. I'm going to write that down.
You
but
know
that's
what's
kind of a
interesting?
different topic.
You know what's interesting? Just on that route, the creator of SpongeBob has come out many times and said that SpongeBob is asexual. That's how they relate that cartoon character.
Well, right,
I think
because
that's
it's a kid's show.
Asexual what?
Right. An asexual sponge. Because sponges are actually asexual. Actual creatures.
Okay,
themselves.
this has gotten really off track and weird.
I know. I'm
Are
just
we
I just
saying.
wanted to point that out in regards to Elsa, but yeah.
Okay. What I wanted to bring in first about this discussion, I'm in a film history class, and I thought we learned some things that pertain to this topic, which has to do with the USSR and Nazi Germany, because both of those cases nationalized their film industry, or they took them over and controlled them in some way. And what's interesting about that is both leaders, whether it be Stalin or Hitler, were specifically interested in film alone. Film was the medium that they both really focused on because they saw it as this really popular, like with the masses, really accessible art form that can be turned as a tool for them, right? It was used for propaganda. So I think it's interesting that we're talking about the effects of film and stuff, and these dictators used it as a tool for their entire government system. So much so that Stalin had to personally approve of every film released in his country. He had to personally watch it and okay it and give notes, which I think is fascinating.
Very tedious, too.
Yeah, this ruthless dictator sitting in a screening room taking notes on a movie. Isn't that a funny image? And
that would be cool. I'd be interested to actually see like what he had to watch.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, I'm sure you can find all the movies. There were not many released during the Soviet regime because it was so tightly controlled. But I thought that was a good way to start the discussion because clearly history has shown that many people think film has a huge impact. And to be fair, I mean, that's a solid place to start. It is, like, it is really widely known. Like, film is probably the most accessible art form that we have, honestly.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the thing about film that I always liked was just this entire idea of I can do this too. You know, I can if I have a camera and I have
definitely.
somewhat of a knowledgeable sense of just overall formatting of things. I can make a film, and I've done it before, and it's really a gratifying experience.
Yeah, that was just like, as a little kid, I would make movies with my parents' camcorder, which is like this really basic camera. And our way of editing was you had to rewind the tape and then just record over it. That's how you edited. You rewound, you watched, you hit stop when your shot ended, and then you recorded. So yeah, that was my editing. So I made a ton of like just little home movies, like with my Star Wars action figures, with my dog.
I did that with Transformers figures, actually.
Nice.
To be real. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good stuff, and you know about that whole Stalin thing. with that kind of goes into an entire idea of freedom of expression.
Sure. Yeah, because
and-
they definitely controlled it a lot.
Yeah, and in America, that's a lot expanded. I mean, really,
Sure.
not every film gets a AAA release, but some films that have truly, pushed some boundaries on exactly what's said and what isn't said have come out, and it's interesting to see when films are able to jump that, especially when those films get banned in alternate countries, and kind of seeing as that discussion and what's still taboo and what's not, which is actually a pretty fascinating topic all on its own. What's taboo in the film industry and what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, morality
anyway,
in films. Interesting topic.
Yeah. What's interesting is actually, I was in not a film history but film theory class a few years ago, and the teacher basically actually he found a YouTube video of I believe the final scene from Triumph of the Will, which is one of the most famous propaganda films ever made. It was made during the Nazi regime.
Yeah, it was the Olympics in Berlin.
Yeah, and it was he played, and the video contained the ending music to the last scene in Star Wars: A New Hope, and it was terrifying seeing how freaking well it synced up. It was it was really, really crazy. It's it kind of gave that while we were watching, while the students, we were just gasping in horror of the fact that this even existed. So it was just that same kind of idea that the communication of one thing to another is, in film especially, is often similar a lot, no matter what country you go to.
So I'd like to really clarify that I got it mixed up. There's Olympia and Spirit of the Will. Spirit of the Will has nothing to do with the Olympics. That was my bad. I got them.
Spirit of the Will. I thought it was Triumph.
Triumph of the Will. Sorry, Triumph of the Will. Don't listen to me, okay? That's a new rule. Don't listen to me.
Oh,
Spirit
wait,
of
can we
the
get
Will
that? Can we get that?
from
Can we get that in writing?
Miyazaki.
No.
Can we get that in writing?
No, you cannot.
And new rule: never listen to Sean.
Is
Done.
this National Never Listen to Sean Day?
We've created too many holidays. We
Okay,
can't
but no,
keep doing
officially,
this.
March 16th.
National Don't Listen to Sean Day is every day, guys.
Oh, wow, Max. Wow.
Zing! Bada
well,
boom! There
Okay,
you
let's
go.
bring it back to the discussion.
That's a good one.
I think that kind of leads to a good topic. Propaganda films are clearly popular, and do you think they're effective? Do you think that these documentaries were effective, or
Yes.
what do you think? Can propaganda films can film be manipulative, good or bad?
Oh my God, Sean, that's
yes.
what film is.
That's
It's
true.
manipulative.
You know what?
Can
Here's
it
the
completely
question,
change
though.
an opinion
Yeah,
of
here's
a
the
people?
question. Here's the question, though. Can we define what a propaganda film is before we start talking?
Oof,
Because I might have seen. I don't know whether I've seen a ton of propaganda films or no propaganda.
No, I don't think you, Larry, have seen a lot of propaganda films. Once you get to film school,
information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. That's
think of
the definition of propaganda.
think of it as like something from your childhood, like Nintendo Power. That was propaganda because
Thank
sometimes
you.
it would be.
Oh, thank you. Someone said it.
I love Nintendo Power, but yeah, it was just kind of advertising and propaganda, as if it was always promoting Nintendo, and it was always like it was.
I guess the news, those old newsreels, from the World War I.
The newsreels that I imitate. I imitate propaganda.
Those are huge propaganda.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
am propaganda.
Wow, this just became a little meta. We're talking about.
But I mean, this kind of reminded me. I'm sure we're all very familiar with the Rhythm and Hughes situation that happened a while back.
Yes.
About Life of Pi.
Yep.
What happened and how at the Oscars they got cut off and it all became very taboo and then just kind of faded away and everyone kind of forgot. Well, there was this video that came out. I think it was called like After Pi or something. It was like I can't remember, but it was a short 30-minute documentary, and it talked about the real behind the scenes story behind the actual the bankruptcy in Rhythm and Hughes and what happened, who they really were, how it affected them, the job loss, what they really do, all the inner schematics of that. And I think it takes that, in my opinion, is a film that says something that nobody else wants to say. And that, in my opinion, can have a huge impact. Films like that, I think, are a lot more prevalent. I mean, propaganda films were kind of the pusher to kind of get people to start saying, you know what, establishment sucks, blah 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 blah, and write stuff about that.
To be fair, when we're talking about propaganda films, we also have to remember that propaganda can be everything.
Yeah.
You know how every time we go, you know how every time, like, let's see, I think of a documentary like Super Size Me. That's complete propaganda.
Love that film. Sorry.
It's a great film. I loved it when I was little, but
it's
also really, it's just kind of propaganda that kind of misuses some information, some examples sometimes, in order to prove its point.
What,
and I don't,
is this propaganda for McDonald's?
It's propaganda against. It's propaganda for the guy, for Morgan Spurlock. Propaganda doesn't just have to come from companies, it can be from anybody.
That's true.
Somebody once told me that all documentaries are propaganda because they always use certain information and leave out others in order to establish a point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but the propaganda can be everywhere. This podcast, who promotes Rule Thirds, could be Rule Thirds propaganda.
Yeah,
you
but doesn't propaganda have to be misleading?
No, propaganda has only recently took on the negative connotation that it has today. I mean, a lot of times countries would freely admit that it's propaganda and it would be a good thing. Propaganda was just, I don't know, it was just a thing. And now it has this negative connotation of manipulative and only used by evil people. But guess what? Not true. A lot of people consider Casablanca to be propaganda. And it kind of is, to be perfectly honest.
Oh my god, there's so much American propaganda. A lot of Looney Tunes that were playing in the theaters beforehand, like, holy crap.
Yeah.
They always promoted, American, stuff and whatnot.
Would you call, Rocky and Bullwinkle, anti-communist propaganda?
I suppose, but that was more or less, kind of, making a parody of the whole Cold War
I mean, when you look at some
situation.
Looney Tunes cartoons, especially the one with Daffy Duck as part of the Nazi regime, that one gets me every time. That one gets me every time.
There's one where Bugs Bunny turns into a superhero, and at the very end he's like, "I don't need superpowers. I'll just go join the army." And those are where the real heroes are. No, really, it's
oh my god, that's so subtle.
Yeah, and of course there's the famous Disney cartoon in which Donald Duck has a dream in which he is a Nazi and he's part of the German the Nazi regime. Yeah. Everybody knows that one,
so,
right?
I mean, that's why I asked, do we need to define propaganda? Because can we say that documentaries that technically are telling us something that someone might find moral or good to discuss and bring up, can that be propaganda? I mean, can that be seen like that?
Yes, it can. And that's why propaganda is not a good or bad term. It simply is a term. And that especially means, stuff like Blackfish, which is huge right now.
Oh, yeah.
Huge. Yeah, I mean, people go crazy for it. I haven't actually seen it, but people go crazy for it. But
Netflix,
they forget that it's still... Yes, it is available on Netflix. That's how everybody's seeing it. People are still going crazy for it, even though it is, in essence, propaganda for the people who are trying to make it.
World propaganda. That's a good... Yeah.
If I tell you, okay, here's a good example. You know how in elections they always say, he's going to do this, he's going to do this, he's going to do this if you vote for him, right?
Yeah.
That really is propaganda. That really is,
Yeah, because it has the stigma of being misleading.
No, because they leave information out,
you've got to let go of the misleading part of propaganda.
I know, but to be fair...
Propaganda is not misleading. It certainly is promoting information.
I know, but to be fair, that example does specifically have...
Sure, but it's not the point.
I mean, I'm sure propaganda doesn't have to be misleading. I mean, when you talk about, especially in World War I, people were doing propaganda about war. That wasn't really leading anyone anywhere except, war's happening. Here you go.
Well, yeah, it was...
that. It was war propaganda, but it wasn't anti... Well, it was pro-war. It wasn't pro-war.
Oh my God.
It was pro... It was pro go join the war. That's I guess.
They got pretty anti the enemy. You'll have to look back and see just how racist Looney Tunes could get.
Propaganda posters from World War I and World War II. There's one. Oh my god, this cracked me up. It probably shouldn't have, but this guy's driving in the car in this propaganda poster, and there's a little dashed line ghost of Hitler.
Yeah.
Next to him, and he says, "When you drive alone, you're aiding and abetting Nazi Germany."
Well, no, I thought it was Hitler rides in the empty seat.
Oh, is that
what?
It? Is that it?
Yeah.
I thought it was something else.
I've seen a poster. It's pretty much.
I'm so confused. Wait, what were they trying to promote?
To save fuel.
Yeah, to save a car,
so you can save fuel for the war effort.
Are you holy?
Yeah,
well, that's
serious.
There was one. Okay, here's a commercial. There was a commercial I watched in my media studies high school class on 9/11. It was we saw the commercial began, boom, it's a CG creation of what happened of just like the plane crashing into the building, which has been the first time I'd ever actually seen like a reenactment of that. And then this thing, like 9/11 killed this many people. Boom, we see the other one. This happened, and then there's there's like a line that says the tsunami in Indonesia killed 40,000 people, and you see just thousands of planes coming towards the two towers, and it says, "Don't mess with Mother Nature."
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's like It's like not the WWE wrestling thing. It's the worldwide something WWE. That's the thing, I think, or WWF. I don't remember. It was like something along those lines. It was environment. It was an environmental.
Okay, okay, guys. We should probably bring this discussion back to film.
Yeah, let's. Why are we talking about this in relation to like having an effect on people?
I want to pose the question. We're talking about propaganda films, and it's funny how we're talking about it it's so removed from us. You know, like we're talking World War II and I. It's still going on today. But,
it's always going on.
Right. So the question is that actually effective on its own, or is it the sheer number of it? Just how many of the it's so repetitive. You know, like you see it everywhere. Those posters during World War II were everywhere. So we're talking about like single film and how it can impact people. So do you think that a single propaganda film can be that effective? Or is it just keep at it and you'll change their mind?
Well, I mean, think about it this way. You go back to Super Size Me, by the way, one of my favorite documentaries of all time. Just putting that out there. That's why I love it so much and why I'm bringing it up now. If you watched at the end of the film, that film is the reason why they got rid of the Super Size Me thing at McDonald's.
Well,
but in their defense, I guess they removed it before the documentary became public. I guess, unless they added that statistic like after it had already premiered at a film festival.
But they
maybe they removed it because they saw what would happen.
Yeah,
if he did a whole thing on this.
That's the same thing here. You know, some not all films, obviously. Some are just fodder, but some films do have a very big impact on people.
That's a cultural impact. That's the masses convince them of something. That's not the problem. We're talking about propaganda. We're talking about documentaries. And that's a solid starting point because they do have an impact. Like, An Inconvenient Truth is one of the most important documentaries of pretty much all time because documentaries didn't come around until, they weren't as popular as they are today until recently. So that is one discussion, but that's not as interesting of a discussion. You know, of course, a documentary can bring facts to light and can change the minds about people and can, get people fired up. You know, like Super Size Me, it led to the ending of that. But now let's refine that. Let's make it smaller. A film, a person. What kind of impact do you think can come of it? Now, maybe we should start with art in general. Can any one single piece of art change someone?
Well, this brings about the very long-standing debate of whether art influences action. Sure. I personally believe that art does not influence action. That is my assessment. That is what I've accumulated. But I will not deny that film or just art in general can leave an impression on the mind. Influencing, I often think of as people like art controlling the minds of individuals and completely rearranging their brain chemistry. When I'm thinking art making an impression on us and then having our own brain chemistry, our own thoughts be calculated and implemented into our brain. Like having the movie or the piece of art become a part, make an impression on our brain, and then we make decisions from there. I believe that can happen. However,
so wait, you're saying art doesn't influence action, but it can?
No, it doesn't influence action, but it does make an impression on us.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. That's what everyone's saying.
I don't think it makes. No. I don't think it's the same. Impression means we acknowledge it's there and we acknowledge what it's trying to say, and we think about it using our own brains. Influences action means I'm going to go do this because the art took control of my mind. Influence doesn't mean
dictate. Influence means it influences the way people act. And if you're saying that a film can leave an impression, then it obviously does change how we interact. And of course,
it doesn't. But it doesn't have to. I can watch a film. It's not going to influence. It's not going to influence me. Well,
of course.
Great. Now I've gotten myself into trouble. I will say, okay, fine. I'm just going to say I don't believe art influences action. I don't believe that.
Really, a movie? You've never acted a certain way because of a movie?
No.
Okay, so I just like to bring up, honestly, this is kind of an interesting discussion because it sounds kind of deep, right?
It is
What
kind of
impact does film have? But it can also be discussed on the most basic, stupidly obvious level. People reference movies all the time.
Sean, you
Exactly.
you are an official
But
Professional
Sean, does that mean that like
referencer.
it
But
makes
it
an influence
changes-
on you, or does that just mean you're acknowledging its existence and that you enjoyed it?
But it did make such an influence on me. Of course, we can get to this later. We'll get to that later. I will pick up that question later. Rain check on that question. But on a basic level, I think films can change the way people act. And of course, imitation. Life does imitate art. If you see something that's cool in a movie, you're going to replicate it, maybe subconsciously or consciously.
I can agree. Sometimes when I see a movie, like when I was younger, and even sometimes now, admittedly, when I see a film I really like, it's almost as if I'm caught up in that film's world, and I start kind of acting like those characters just to relive it a little bit because it's
Right.
fun. But then, the next day, I, of course, grounded back in reality, referenced it a couple times. Like that happened with the Lego Movie. When I walked out of the Lego Movie, I was on like a high of joy after coming out of that movie, because that was such a fun movie. It had such an energy to it. It was contagious, and it kind of made me like really happy that I just saw it, and I wanted to relive it several times. You know what
Art,
I mean?
okay. I don't believe art influences action, but it does influence thought.
Okay,
of
but
course.
thought leads to action.
Exactly.
But thought doesn't always lead to action.
Well, that's the only
you know.
thing that does create action. So you're saying that film only impacts thoughts that never lead to action?
Well,
You're
let's
saying
see.
not a
Larry, did
single
you do
thought.
anything? Okay, Larry, when you were so happy after seeing Lego Movie, did you do anything about it, or were you just happy?
Besides for referencing
Did you
the movie,
eat some ice cream, or jump?
Well,
no reason.
okay. Admittedly, I did go online and see if any of those sets were available.
Oh,
That was
and
it.
then we can get into
That was it. I
that
didn't buy
opens
them.
up a whole different can of worms.
I didn't buy them. I'm not okay. We're not getting into
Okay, but
product placement and all that crap.
Max, here's a question that's kind of coming from this. One of the reasons I want to get into film, one of the reasons I love movies, is there's that feeling you get, I've never gotten from anything else, where you walk out of a movie and it's just like, that was a good movie. Do you know that feeling where you're just satisfied with the thing you just experienced?
And the last time I had a feeling like that was when I watched Perks of Being a Wallflower.
What, you haven't experienced it since then? Not even like Lego Movie?
Oh, well, when I'm then okay, we're thinking about two different things. Sorry.
Wait, what do you think about?
Well, I think about just like the sense like when I walk out of a movie, I just feel alive. I feel like I should go do something about this. Like I should go
now
out. Yeah.
You
and
never.
shit,
Are you
I
saying
am
you,
really disproving my own.
Yeah. Are you
stance
saying
on
you
this.
never acted on that?
Well, I just shit.
Look,
Shut up,
changes
Larry.
in mood
Um,
and thought is what lead to actions. Actions cannot exist on their own. So I think when we talk about a movie influencing action, it's kind of a given, because movies clearly influence mood, negative or positive. Occasionally, of course, a lot of movies you don't really get a response from. Sometimes it's totally neutral. But there's always going to be a positive or negative, and that immediately influences your actions. Mood influences action because mood influences thoughts, which should be the other way around, but it's not. Humans are dumb. We're built wrong, okay? We're built all wrong.
all wrong. The last
So-
time,
Even though our bodies are like geniusly made.
that's true. The
Sorry.
last time I felt very well. Okay, here's another example. When I went to see Silver Linings Playbook, which I cannot believe was actually 2 years ago, a year and a couple months ago, rather. I love that movie. I really like that movie, and I was like, I had to tell someone about it. Like, I thought about how much I loved it, and I thought I need to tell people. And I literally called up all of my friends and I said, "This movie's great. Go see it now. You need to see this movie now." So that's another thing.
But I'm not sure if that's as deep as we want to go with the
Well,
conversation.
of course,
Yeah.
like, I'm not
Okay,
saying
okay,
I saw a war movie and now I want to go buy a gun.
No.
That's not the
But
same
that's
thing.
like, let's talk about, can it actually affect like deep-rooted, consistent actions by people?
Yeah. So before we say that, I think we're all going to agree. No, it does not change your sexuality.
Oh yeah,
That
no.
is, yeah, that's
Probably
like
not.
just to put it out there. completely, totally nonsense.
Yeah, it's idiotic, honestly. Those two, idiots. I don't even feel bad saying that. Morons. Imbeciles. Any word you want to pick.
Buffoons!
That's
Hooligans!
and that's a little too silly. I want it to be very serious and biting. They're idiots. Let's just state that for the record.
Can it change, perhaps, a person's opinion on something?
Yes.
Well, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, it can.
And that is actually a huge part of film, and that's kind of going back to the propaganda point. It can show evidence, or it can act out scenarios. So basically, if your film brings about a scenario that someone hasn't quite experienced, but the characters act in a way that are realistic, then the obvious conclusion is that the conclusion of that story is the conclusion of reality. So if your scenario is unique enough, and someone didn't think of it that way, but the people interact with it like they would, you see that that is actually reality. That is how that comes out. So that does impact opinions without it being fact-based. It can be story-based. What would happen in the real world if blank. Hopefully that all made sense. That was a lot.
Yeah, it made sense. I got it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, we were talking about like a single film was kind of the idea. And I think, Larry, what you said before kind of makes sense. Like movies that do say things that others don't, or try to at least say things and do things that others haven't.
I mean, it's the thing about how a film impacts, and especially how a film impacts different people. I went to go see a film. I can't remember what it was because this has happened to me multiple times, but this one particular instant, I went to go see it with a very good friend of mine, and we walked out of it, and I'm like, wow, that movie has totally like changed my entire way I look at I think it was an animated film, so something about like, I don't know, spirits or something. I don't know. So like it changed my way I looked at something. And then my other friend goes, "What the hell? Did we see the same movie? What the hell are you talking about?" You're like, no, seriously.
Did you watch this movie with Sean?
Yeah, and I'm like, no, but seriously, like there was like the messages and the symbolism,
So that begs an interesting question. Okay, so an impact of a film, it's really hard to boil down to its essence, like what that means and how that functions, but could we agree that it's not going to have much of an effect on people if it's been said before, if it's already there? Like, if someone released a documentary right now about how fast food's bad for you, will it have an effect on people?
No, not really.
No, right.
Obvious.
So could one argue that the impact of a movie it's not only subjective in opinion of the film, but it's totally subjective in the sense that if someone's experienced it before, then it's powerless.
Kinda.
Does it make sense to say that a film can only really be impactful if it's something new? Like, is that too black and white?
It depends on. Well, if the film is timeless. If the film is timeless,
right,
it's not an issue.
Hold on. Here's something. Here's one. So a few weeks ago, I watched Fruitvale Station.
Right.
That film is about a lot of things, and none of these things talked about were really new, or really something like. But what happened was the fact that it was based on a true story, and at the very least, the very last part of the movie is like completely true. The thing is, that hit people pretty hard because it wasn't afraid to be like. It was very honest in how it approached the topic. It was like, and it also made it incredibly relatable. We knew who this guy was. By the time the movie had ended, we knew who Oscar Grant was. We knew his past, we knew his likes, his desires, his dreams, and then used the backdrop of what it's trying to say as a way to get us to feel empathetic for him. Boom. He died. That guy shot him. Then something will happen. Then the culture will react. So Fruitvale Station did not introduce anything new. It just introduced it in a very honest way. And I think that's why it was so effective.
Okay, so it was a new technique. It was a new way to communicate something before, and it was something that hadn't worked before. Yeah. So there's always an element of new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess that you can kind of admit that. I mean, it's kind of like, it's so interesting when something, it's like there's like this cycle, when there's the norm, and then something new happens, and that new thing becomes the norm, and then something new happens, and that becomes the norm.
And is that just the introduction of ideas?
That
just
kind
in
of
general, is that what a film is doing? Is just introducing ideas and affecting people? Like, is this discussion just kind of completely pointless because that's literally the only point of a film?
No. The point of a film is many things.
There are
There's
many
no one
reasons
point
to
of
make a
filmmaking
film.
or film.
No, there's an ultimate point, I would assume.
Is there?
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I mean...
Whoa. Hold on. There is...
We might be
I think
getting
the
too
ultimate,
big.
I think the ultimate point of making a film is because, personally, my ultimate reason to make a film is because I want to make something come to life.
Sure.
I have a
can
story
relate to
here, and
that.
I want to make that come to life. That is always... Because if I have a thing and I say, it should be a film, why the hell would I want it to be a film if I didn't want to see it on screen? So that's the ultimate point. Then it branches off of, do I want to teach people a lesson about something? Oh, do I want to tell a person's life story? Oh, do I want to just see two guys, kill each other with swords and guns?
I'd like to see that.
Well, 300. I was just kind of going off the 300 thing. But it's like that, and I think that there are some times, like with Fruitvale Station specifically, like we obviously know, we touched upon this in the Oscars thing, racism is bad. That's obvious, it's evident, it's clear. And Max, you said, like, if someone said that racism is still alive today, that would take balls. And I don't really think that, because racism is clearly still alive today. There's clearly still people who are
Right,
racist
but how do
against
you...
other people.
Okay, so you're saying that isn't courageous? Yet
No,
saying that
no,
it
no,
used
no,
to
no,
exist
no, no, no,
is?
no,
Are
no.
we really
I'm
going
not
to bring
saying
this
that-
up again?
Yeah,
No,
let's
I'm
not
just-
go back into
I'm
12 Years a Slave thing.
I'm segueing.
All right, segue away.
So that does take courage to say that in front of many people, especially those who are. But now Fruitvale Station kind of bring it up in the sense that we just need to kind of be reminded. In the sense that we just kind of have to say, like, some things have become so much of the norm that we forget how much of an impact it really has. Like things, all these different deep parts of life that become so obvious, like how technology has affected us. We all know, we kind of we kind of let it roll off our backs. Technology's been really important, and it's kind of, changed the way we look at life. And then there are movies that come out where they discuss this, and it kind of makes us remember, it really has. And I think that's a very important aspect of this whole concept of there's a norm and it becomes regular, and then there's a new norm and it becomes regular. Sometimes you have to take the regular and make it the norm again. You guys know what I'm saying?
Exactly. It is movies return. It's just that's kind of the thing of like thought in general. As soon as something's introduced, it's there and it just is, and then you have to get something new for it to be interesting. So a
Right.
film has to say something new for it to be interesting, or at least in a new way. And so I
Right.
think that boils down to if movies can have an effect on people, is if
Right.
it is something new. Because I think we can all agree that we were not affected in how we act and think by Jack the Giant Slayer.
Not really. Max, don't say
No, it doesn't matter.
Or
anything.
300, Rise of an Empire, for that
Sure.
matter.
So
Which the review is available right
okay.
now on rulethirds.com.
Okay, well, to be fair, I did actually learn a little bit about how you can handle a narrative well from 300 Rise of an Empire, but that's a different story. But yeah, you make a good point. That is a good point. There are some movies that don't change us at all. Like, we watch them, that's it.
So
But then again-
RoboCop. I mean,
Yeah.
that didn't
Okay.
change me or
yeah,
anything.
and well, that's the
Right.
thing. I think when we talk about if a movie can change stuff, we're not talking quality. Like, I can say RoboCop didn't change the way I think, or it didn't have an emotional impact on me, but I still think it was good. I enjoyed it. So
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
let's make that clear right now. When we talk about this, we're not going to talk.
I think, though,
Quality.
there is a strange correlation between movies that are great and the ones that really do teach a lesson. There are a lot of great movies that do have deep messages to them.
But there's so many that aren't.
Yeah, there are so many that aren't. You have a very dang it. Okay, one of my favorite films of all time is Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yes.
After I
Yeah.
finished watching that movie, I was like, I didn't learn anything.
Right.
I didn't really learn anything from watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I said that was a fun time. Animation in real life. Cool. I like that. So I understand if you kind of put it in that perspective.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
We're just kind of scratching the surface here about this entire discussion, but I just kind of want to bring it to a closing point. I think really the main idea behind film being an impact is that some do and some don't, and some are meant to and some are not meant to. But when a film is meant to have an impact, you know it is. You know that it is meant to.
but how can that be true if it's entirely subjective? Like, a lot
That's
of people
true. You got
claim
me
that
there.
movies impact them, and I say, no, it's meaningless. Brazil, for one. I hate Brazil.
Hey,
I've
hold
seen
on, Sean. Why are you to say that those people aren't being affected? They could, if they were affected, they were affected.
Right.
Doesn't matter how good the movie is or how bad it is that you think.
No, exactly. But we're talking about whether or not it was intentional. Can anyone really say it was intentional?
Oh, well...
Because I don't think anything in Brazil was, like, it's meaningless.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't think there was any thought behind, like, its meaning. It's a brainless, awful piece of movie.
Yeah, but you can look at other films and... Well, okay, here's how I know it's intentional. If you interview the director and say, I really wanted to kind of showcase...
Yeah, but we're talking, like, the movie itself. Obviously, if you go and talk to the people, that's a pointless thing to make. Of course, it's obvious if you ask the person who would have a point. Obviously, we're talking the film itself. Can you judge whether or not a film intended to have a meaning from the film itself? Like, for me, I think Brazil was just complete ego. It was a complete, here's what I want to see. Because I'm really weird. Terry Gilliam is a weird person. He wanted to see Robert De Niro fix these weird ventilation systems, and he wanted Governor Swan for Pirates of the Caribbean to sleep in a refrigerator. That movie is garbage.
In case you don't know, Sean really doesn't like Brazil.
The three movies I hate, that is one.
Oh my god.
Oh wow, there's three.
Yes, we'll get to the other two. We'll reveal the other two over time. But that's my number one, Brazil.
Oh, what? It's your least favorite movie?
Like
That's your least favorite movie?
Yes, it is.
Oh wow!
Yes, it is.
We just discovered something, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there we go.
Keep this in mind.
Brazil.
I'll go watch it and probably enjoy it.
Yeah, because you're you.
I mean, I guess you can never really tell whether a film is meant to have an intention based off of the film itself. Of course, I think that some films make it very obvious what its moral center is. If it's trying to teach a lesson, and it's like kind of like in The Lion King, when Rafiki has that line, one of my favorite lines in film history, where he smacks Simba over the head with his stick, and Simba goes, "Ow, what was that for?" And he goes, "What does it matter? It was in the past." And those are straight up, "Hi viewer, we're trying to tell you something here. This is it." But some films are a lot more subtle, which is appreciated. The subtle ones, I think when it's subtle, it's a lot better.
Like, for example, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. The last, I've been taught by screenwriting people that you should always ram your point home at the very end. You should always, make it clear. Don't go, really blunt and really, direct.
Good.
Or the very beginning.
Clarity in what you're saying is good, especially at the end. The last exchange of dialogue between the two characters, between Joel and Clementine, literally sum up the entirety of what Charlie Kaufman is trying to say in the screenplay. That, in essence, is what, that's what they're trying to say. That's just like your Lion King example. It's just there. There you go. I won't say it because I don't think you've seen it, Sean, and I don't want our viewers to be spoiled of one of the greatest stories in modern movies.
Oh, yeah. Easily one of the most creative films ever.
Yeah, it's just, it sums it all up, and, that's the effect they can have on people because it's direct. It's not blunt, but it's very direct in what it says, and that could leave an impression.
Yeah, so that reminds me of, to wrap up, the points I want to bring out, Max, I said I'd take a rain check. You were asking about Casablanca. Can't remember the exact question, but the point I wanted to bring up about it is that movie did have an impact on me. It's one of the reasons I'm right here in film school. And what's funny is that I realized its moral is stated for you at the very end. It's kind of glanced over, it's not emphasized, but it's the entire point of that film, its theme is stated black and white in the line, "The problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world." There's your moral. Thought that was interesting, that tied in, that it does link directly to what we were talking about earlier with the final thing. But I was hoping this discussion would kind of lead to this point, and Max, you're probably going to be upset with me for bringing this up, but we keep talking about bringing up your moral, and sometimes it's really hidden. It's all about, bringing up these ideas, giving people these ideas, sometimes without them knowing, sometimes, I'd like to bring up Inception, and the theory that it's about filmmaking, because I think that's incredibly relevant to this discussion. I think it is about filmmaking, and I think that makes it just way more brilliant, because it is kind of like, you've got your different roles to fill, like movies have roles, and movies are kind of designed to give you this story that tells you something, some way or another, and sometimes it slips right by, sometimes you don't catch it, and even if it is stated for you flat out, sometimes people don't catch it. Like, I doubt many people would say the theme of Casablanca is choosing rationality over emotional gratification, which I believe is the theme. But most people wouldn't get that, at least not consciously. So I think that's funny that we have this really popular film that people really, really like. Do you think it's kind of a meta film in a way, and how it was so impactful in pop culture, and it was about how you can sneak things in without people realizing it? So do you think people talk about films and their purpose more because of Inception? Like, do you think that had an interesting...
No.
Well, Max, what?
No, I don't... Listen, you're the first person to ever say something along the lines of, it's about filmmaking. That's good.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Look it up. Tons of people think it's about filmmaking.
I
Really?
can actually see where you're coming from.
Well,
I can
yeah,
definitely
think
see where
about
you're
it.
coming from.
Well, yeah, but no, I don't think it's because people got that it's about filmmaking that film is discussed more today. No.
No, but I think it increased it. I'm not saying it's responsible for a giant increase, but I'm saying stuff like that helps it. So I found that interesting that this movie introduced that idea without us knowing it. It's all about, it's just about dreams, you guys. It's just about dreams and stuff. And that's really, it's cool sci-fi. When it, in reality, could be about how things that we don't appear to be introducing ideas are. So I think that's pretty smart. And I think that just speaks of movies in general, tying it back to the discussion, that movies are introducing ideas without us knowing. And I'm sure people have taken away life lessons from movies, and they don't know it. They might act a certain way 20 years after seeing some random movie. And it did actually come from that movie. I think that's a good thing. And I don't think it's the movie's thing. I think it's a person trying to communicate that, right? We can't just say that a film has changed someone's mind, but it's someone who uses film to discuss their point.
That's what all the quotes on the box say, Sean.
What do you mean?
A film that changes lives. One of the must-see movies of the year.
That's,
Okay, well, no film critic says the film that will change your life.
yeah, no one says that. No, at least no one should.
Yeah, no one should say that for that matter. But I think that's a very nice place to kind of wrap it up. I think we all agree films can have an impact, and they have had an impact.
Yeah.
And that's why we love the medium so much, because the film medium has had a huge impact on not only how we live, but also how we view things, how we learn things, how we learn things about people, how we learn things about life. And honestly, if film was not as big as it was now, I probably would not be the man I am today.
Right.
And I think that's an important thing.
Yeah.
And because I'd like to cover this side too, because Sean said, I don't have a single movie that got me where I am.
Oh, right. I don't have a single either.
Oh,
but
yeah,
Casablanca's
Well, no,
one
you
of
said
them.
Casablanca.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind. I
Right.
don't have like
But I
that
got
kind of
all my favorite movies are just really any movie that, like I talked about earlier, that feeling of, man, that was just a good movie. That cannot be replicated anywhere else that I've experienced, so I want to be a part of it.
Yeah. I mean,
And to be fair,
you
if
can't
I'm gonna
pinpoint it.
if I'm gonna think about leaving an impact on people, to go back to my example a few 30 minutes ago, when I walked out of seeing The Perks of Being a Wallflower, I did call up my friends and tell them that I missed them a lot because I was at film school and not back home. I just called my friends and told them I missed them and I hope they're doing great.
Well, there was a film influencing actions.
I suppose, or just reminded me.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
maybe
isn't that a change? Isn't that still really impactful to be reminded of things like that?
Can we all agree that we should just say that it was influencing your action? That we could just kind of.
I don't want to say that though. I think about the whole art influencing action thing a lot because it then brings about the idea of art influencing violence, and I don't stand by that.
That is
I don't
a
subscribe to
whole other topic. For
Is
a
it
whole
though?
other
Interesting.
episode.
Yes, definitely. That's a very interesting
it?
topic.
Does art influence violence? That's an entirely different discussion. But hey guys, hope you like that.
Actually, may I just wrap up really quickly?
Yeah,
I have an
go
interesting
ahead.
point to make. Something we're talking about the impact that films have on people, whether or not they can. I just like to bring up the fact that we are here. Why would we be doing this podcast if films couldn't impact people?
Right.
Yeah,
Why
maybe
would
it's
we
not.
care?
Maybe
We're not-
it's not one film when it's just film.
Sure.
They impact people.
Sure. So I think the mere existence of this podcast proves that films do have an impact and are very important.
Exactly.
All right.
Well said. Well
Thank
said,
you.
Sean. So anyway, guys, I hope you liked that little discussion. I think we've barely even scratched the surface of truly what film is and how much of an impact it has. So please leave us a comment on this YouTube video, or if you're on the website, you can leave comments there. Tell us how has film impacted you? What film,
hey,
if
Larry.
there was one? What?
You didn't talk about what's on the site.
It doesn't matter. We had one thing, and that was the
I was going
Rise
to
of
get
an
to that.
Empire review.
I was going to get to that right now. Just a recap. If you not much has gone on the site recently because, well, there's not much of that. But we do have our review of 300 Rise of an Empire, which went up on Saturday. That was a very interesting surprise of a film. Personally,
Yeah.
I
You
found
can
myself
also-
enjoying it.
You can also find a written review of the Grand Budapest Hotel from me.
Yes, that will also be up. And we also posted a couple of new reviews of Brevity. Always posting those, so be sure to check those out. And you can expect a episode of Recommendation Domination based off of 300 Rise of an Empire from yours truly. That will go up this coming Saturday. So stay tuned for that. Also, we hopefully will be getting some episodes of Newsreel and Preview in that time.
Hopefully.
And I do know that I will be working on an episode of The Greats, which will premiere next week. So be sure to stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, that is all the time we have tonight for this episode of Cinema Talk. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And of course, remember, if you want to watch or, well, listen to some more episodes of Cinema Talk or any other show we have, all you got to do is go to that little top bar up there in your browser and type in rulethirds.com. And you can check out our website where we have all of the content. Rule Thirds, your one-stop shop for everything film. Just remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you liked the video. And if you hated the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That always just tortures us painfully. But in the meantime, my name is Larry.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Max.
And we want to thank you guys for taking some time to watch. Well, listen, damn it, I'm never going to get over that. To listen to this episode of Cinema Talk. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.
See you.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.